Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing something really interesting. We're going to be looking at mentalism. And we've got a really cool course outline here, like almost a masterclass on creating these mind-boggling illusions.
Yeah, and I think what's fascinating about this course, it kind of reveals how these seemingly impossible feats are achieved.
Right.
It's not about supernatural powers. It's about psychology and really deep understanding of human behavior.
It's like they say, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's exactly what these mentalists are doing.
Right.
Think about famous names like Tony Corinda, Theodore Anneman, Darren Brown. These guys are not magicians in the traditional sense.
Right.
They're weaving illusions of the mind.
Yeah.
And leaving audiences just stunned and wondering, how did they do that?
Exactly. And this course breaks down the illusion into a principle called the illusion of impossibility.
Okay.
So when you see a mentalist seemingly reading minds or predicting the future, they're actually creating a carefully constructed experience that defies your logical understanding.
That's so interesting. So how do they create this illusion of impossibility? I mean, is it all smoke and mirrors? Or is there a method to the madness?
Well, there's definitely a method involved.
Okay.
A big part of it is understanding and leveraging human psychology.
Okay.
So, for example, this course dives into something called cold reading.
Okay, cold reading, where they make deductions about you without knowing anything about you.
Right. But it's not magic.
Right.
They're using a combination of keen observation, carefully worded statements, and a bit of psychological trickery.
Okay.
For example, one thing that they'll often use is something called Barnum statements.
Okay.
These are very cleverly worded generalities that feel deeply personal because they tap into our desire to see ourselves as unique.
It's almost like they're playing on our own need to believe that someone can understand us on such a deep level.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
And by combining these Barnum statements with subtle observations of your body language, reactions, even the way you're dressed, they can make incredibly accurate guesses about you, creating the illusion that they're reading your mind.
It's amazing how much information we unknowingly give away.
Right.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way.
It's true. And then the course goes on to explain other techniques that they use to further create that illusion of impossibility. For example, forcing techniques.
Okay. What's a forcing technique? Is that like hypnotism?
Not quite. Hypnotism is a different technique altogether, and the course does address that later on, with a big emphasis on the ethical aspects of its use.
Okay.
But forcing, in this context, is more about subtly influencing your choices without you even realizing it.
So it's like they're nudging you in a certain direction.
Exactly.
Making you think that you're making a free choice when in reality they've kind of orchestrated the whole thing.
Yes. It's definitely a powerful technique. The course doesn't go into too much detail about the specifics, but it highlights the psychological principles behind it.
Okay.
So, for instance, they might use limited number of options, subtle wording, or even body language to kind of guide your decision-making process.
So they're hacking our brains.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit. Besides psychology, this course outline also mentions a bunch of signature mentalism acts.
Right.
The classic mind-reading prediction acts, book tests, those sorts of things.
Right. These are the bread and butter of a mentalist's performance, each designed to create that sense of wonder and impossibility.
Okay.
So, for example, one of the most popular acts is the book test.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those before.
Yeah.
That's where they pick someone from the audience, have them choose a random word from a book.
Right.
And then somehow the mentalist already knows the word.
Right.
How do they do that? Is there a special book with all the words already chosen or something?
Well, that's the beauty of it. There are actually several methods that they describe in the course, and each one relies on a blend of preparation and in-the-moment observation.
Okay, so spill the tea.
So some of the techniques involve what they call pre-show work.
Okay.
This might mean subtly influencing the choice of the book, or even planting a few key participants in the audience beforehand.
Oh, sneaky. So it's all about creating that illusion.
Right.
It's making it seem random when in reality, they've already stacked the deck in their favor.
Exactly. And then there are other methods that rely on what they call forcing during the performance itself.
Yes.
They might use clever wording or body language to subtly guide the participant towards choosing a specific word,
Right.
all without them realizing it.
So they're not just reading minds, they're directing minds.
Right.
This is getting deep.
And what's even more fascinating is that each act Each technique is designed to play on our natural biases and assumptions about the world.
Right.
Mentalists understand how we perceive information, how we make decisions,
Okay.
and they use that knowledge to create these incredible illusions.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
It's like they're taking advantage of our brain's shortcuts,
Right.
making us see what they want us to see.
Precisely, and that's what makes mentalism so captivating. It's a blend of psychology showmanship
Right.
and a deep understanding of how our minds work.
But it's not all trickery and manipulation, friend.
Right.
This course outline also seems to emphasize the importance of ethics.
Absolutely. While creating these illusions is a big part of it, ethical performance is crucial. Remember, mentalists are entertainers, not psychics.
Right.
They should never claim to have genuine supernatural powers.
Right.
It's all about creating a sense of wonder and entertainment, not exploiting or deceiving people.
That's a good point. You want to maintain that sense of mystery and intrigue, but you also want to be respectful of the audience and their beliefs.
Exactly. And the course goes into detail about the importance of obtaining consent, being transparent about the nature of the performance,
Right.
and never using these techniques to harm or manipulate anyone.
So they're basically laying down the ground rules for responsible mind bending.
You could say that ethical performance is not just about protecting the audience, it's also about protecting the art form itself.
Yeah, because if people start feeling tricked or manipulated,
Yeah.
it ruins the whole experience.
Exactly. Mentalism is about pushing the boundaries of perception, creating those how did they do that moments, but it's also about respecting the audience and maintaining that delicate balance between illusion and reality.
All right, so we've delved into the psychology, the techniques,
Yes.
and even the ethics of mentalism.
Right.
But this course outline also mentions something about the business side of being a mentalist.
Yes, the marketing yourself as a mentalist module.
Okay.
It's really fascinating how they address the practical aspects of building a career in this unique field.
I mean, it makes sense, right? These performers need to eat too.
Right.
But it's interesting to think about how an art form as old as mentalism adapts to like the modern world of marketing and branding.
Right. And the course dives into topics like branding,
Okay.
building an online presence, and even networking within the entertainment industry.
So they're taking these ancient techniques of illusion
Yeah.
and applying them to the modern world of marketing.
It is.
That's pretty clever.
And it speaks to the enduring power of mentalism. It's not just about the tricks. It's about understanding human psychology
Okay.
and using that knowledge to connect with people on a deep level.
Yeah.
And that translates well beyond the stage.
You know what? I never thought about it that way
Yeah.
before. But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Mentalists are essentially masters of persuasion.
Yes.
And that skill is valuable in so many different areas of life.
Absolutely. And as we continue to explore this course outline, we'll see how those skills are applied not just to creating mind-blowing illusions, but also to building a successful career and leaving a lasting impact on the world.
This is getting me really intrigued.
Yeah.
But I think we'll have to save the rest for part 2.
Yes. There's still so much more to uncover. We've only just scratched the surface of this fascinating world.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back to dive deeper into the world of mentalism. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're picking up right where we left off, exploring this fascinating world of mentalism. You know, we're looking at this incredible course outline. It's like having a backstage pass to the minds of these master illusionists.
And last time, we kind of uncovered the big secret of mentalism, right?
Yeah.
That it's all about creating the illusion of impossibility, using psychology and clever techniques to make you question what's real.
We talked about cold reading and Barnum statements and how mentalists can subtly influence our choices with like forcing techniques.
Right.
But you know what? I'm itching to dive deeper into some of those like classic mentalism acts that are mentioned in this course.
Well, let's pull back the curtain on a few more, shall we? You mentioned mind reading and prediction acts before the break.
Yes.
Those are always crowd pleasers.
Who hasn't dreamt of reading someone's mind or knowing what the future holds?
Right. Exactly.
But if it's not actual mind reading, how do they pull it off?
Again, it's all about creating a convincing illusion, using a combination of observation, psychological principles, some pretty sneaky techniques.
Yeah.
So, for example, imagine a mentalist seemingly plucking thoughts from your mind.
Okay, I'm picturing it now. They like focus intensely, maybe touch their temple dramatically, and bam, they reveal something you were just thinking about.
Right.
It's almost spooky.
Exactly. And while they're not literally peering into your thoughts, they might be using subtle cues that you're giving off without even realizing it.
Okay.
Like they might be reading your body language, your micro expressions, even the way your eyes dart around.
So they're like super detectives of the mind.
Precisely.
Like picking up on these tiny details and piecing together clues to like figure out what you're thinking.
Exactly. And they might combine that with carefully worded questions or statements that are designed to elicit specific responses from you. It's all about creating a narrative, guiding you towards revealing information without you even realizing you're doing it.
That's so sneaky yet brilliant.
Yeah.
And what about prediction acts? How do they make it seem like they actually know the future?
So this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The course outline actually describes several methods.
Okay.
Some simpler, some incredibly elaborate.
Give me an example.
Okay, so one classic technique involves a bit of pre-show work.
Okay.
Where the mentalist might plant a prediction ahead of time.
Oh.
Perhaps sealed in an envelope or locked in a box.
So they're setting the stage before the show even begins.
Exactly. And then during the performance, they create a series of seemingly random events.
Okay.
But they're subtly influencing the outcome to match their predetermined prediction.
Wow, that takes a lot of planning and control. It's like they're choreographing fate itself.
In a way, yes. And the course goes into detail about how to create these complex illusions, using timing misdirection and even audience participation to heighten the effect.
It's amazing how much goes into crafting these acts. It's like they're not just performers, they're like strategists, psychologists, storytellers, all rolled into one.
Absolutely. And the course really emphasizes that mentalism is a multifaceted art form.
Right.
That it requires a diverse skill set and a deep understanding of human perception.
Now, there's one act from the outline that I'm particularly curious about.
Okay.
It's the Swami gimmick.
Okay.
It sounds almost too good to be true. What's the deal with that one?
The Swami gimmick. A classic tool for creating the illusion of on-the-spot writing.
Okay.
So imagine a mentalist seemingly writing a prediction or a message on a blank piece of paper without anyone seeing how they did it.
That sounds impossible. How do they make it look like the words just magically appear?
Well, the details are a bit of a trade secret, but the course does give us some hints.
Okay.
It involves a small concealed device that's cleverly designed to allow for quick and discreet writing.
So it's like a secret weapon for mentalists.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to their ingenuity and skill in creating these seemingly impossible effects. It's not just about the gimmick itself. It's about how they incorporate it seamlessly into their performance, using misdirection and showmanship to draw the audience's attention away from the method.
Okay, so we've covered mind-reading prediction acts, even secret writing devices.
Yeah.
What other mind-blowing feats does this course, delve into?
Well, remember the memory feat we mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
This course provides some insight into how mentalists create the illusion of extraordinary memory.
Oh, yeah, those acts where they, memorize a deck of cards or a long list of names. I mean, it's incredible. Do they really have, photographic memories?
While true photographic memory is incredibly rare, mentalists can train their minds to achieve impressive feats of memory.
Okay.
Using specific techniques and systems.
So they're not born with it. They work for it.
Exactly. And the course explains some of these memory systems, like the loci method and the peg system.
Okay.
These techniques involve associating information with vivid images or locations, creating a mental map that allows for easier recall.
So they're turning their minds into, memory palaces.
That's a great way to put it. And with dedicated practice, these techniques allow them to memorize and recall vast amounts of information with seemingly effortless accuracy.
It's a good reminder that our brains are capable of amazing things if we train them the right way.
Absolutely. Now, are you ready for something a little more mystical?
Bring it on.
All right, then let's talk about psychometry.
Psychometry. That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? Psychometry is often presented as this ability to read information about a person or event by touching an object associated with them.
Okay.
But in the context of mentalism, it's about creating that illusion rather than claiming any genuine psychic abilities.
So how do they make it seem like they're getting information from a random object?
Well, the course hints at several techniques, including careful observation, pre-show work to gather information, and clever storytelling. So, for example, they might subtly observe cues from the person who provided the object. Or they might have discreetly gathered information about the object beforehand.
So it's like they're piecing together a puzzle, using observation and deduction to create like a convincing narrative.
Exactly. And they often frame their reading in a way that leaves room for interpretation, allowing the audience to kind of fill in the gaps with their own imaginations.
It's amazing how they can take something so seemingly mundane, like touching an object,
Right.
and turn it into such a compelling performance.
It speaks to their skill as performers and their understanding of human psychology. We're naturally drawn to mystery and the unknown.
Right.
And they tap into that fascination to create these captivating experiences.
This deep dive is really opening my eyes to the world of mentalism.
Good.
It's so much more than just tricks and illusions. It's this fascinating blend of psychology and showmanship and creative storytelling.
It truly is. And we've still got a lot more to explore in this course outline.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't even touched on hypnotism or the advanced techniques of dual reality and misdirection.
Well, I can't wait to dive deeper into those topics, but I think we'll have to save that for the final act of our mentalism extravaganza.
Yes, we've got a lot more ground to cover. But for now, let's leave our listeners with a thought to ponder. What's the line between illusion and reality?
Ooh.
And how much of what we perceive is shaped by our own expectations and biases?
That's a good one. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back to explore those questions and more in the final part of the deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the final act of our mentalism exploration, and things are about to get really meta.
That's right. We've seen how mentalists use psychology and clever techniques to create those mind-boggling illusions of impossibility.
Yeah.
But now, this course outline takes us behind the scenes to see how a mentalist crafts like a complete performance.
Yeah, it's like learning the secrets of a master chef. We've seen like the individual ingredients, the techniques.
Right.
But now it's time to see how it all comes together.
Yeah.
To create like this delicious multi-course meal for the mind.
Exactly. This module is all about developing your performance, taking all those individual tricks and techniques and weaving them into a captivating show.
Okay, so imagine you're a mentalist. You've mastered the psychology, you've got your arsenal of techniques, and you're ready to take the stage. Where do you even begin?
Well, this course really emphasizes that a great mentalism act is like a good story.
Okay.
It needs a beginning, a middle, and end.
Okay.
It needs to build suspense, create surprise, and leave the audience wanting more.
So it's not just about stringing together a bunch of random tricks.
Right.
It's about crafting an experience.
Yes.
A journey that takes the audience on an emotional roller coaster.
Precisely. And this course provides a framework for doing just that.
Okay.
It talks about choosing the right acts, sequencing them for maximum impact, and building towards a grand finale. That leaves a lasting impression.
Okay, so let's say you've got your acts all lined up. What's next? Do you just jump on stage and wing it?
Not quite. The course really stresses the importance of practice, practice, practice.
Right.
It's not enough to just know the techniques. You need to rehearse them until they become second nature.
Makes sense. I mean, you're up there in front of an audience, all eyes on you.
Right.
And you need to be confident and in control.
Exactly. And this course encourages mentalists to rehearse not just alone, but also in front of like mock audiences,
Right.
getting feedback and refining their performance. It even suggests recording yourself to analyze your stage presence, your timing, your delivery.
Wow, that's dedication. It's like they're treating mentalism not just as a hobby,
Right.
but as like a serious craft.
Absolutely. And the course also addresses like the mental game of performing.
Ooh.
It talks about overcoming stage fright, developing strategies to stay calm under pressure, and even handling those unexpected moments that can arise during a live performance.
Oh, yeah. I bet there's some interesting stories about those unexpected moments, like what happens if someone tries to heckle you or like expose your tricks.
That's where the art of audience management comes in. And the course actually provides guidance on how to engage different types of audience members,
Okay.
how to handle skeptics, and how to maintain control of the situation, even when things go off script.
So mentalists need to be pretty quick on their feet,
Yes.
thinking several steps ahead, anticipating the audience's reactions.
Yeah, you could say they're playing a game of mental chess, always trying to stay one move ahead.
So you've mastered the techniques.
Yeah.
You've crafted like a killer act. You've honed your performance skills. But how do you actually get people to see your show?
That's where the business side of mentalism comes in. And this course does not shy away from it. Remember that marketing yourself as a mentalist module we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what kind of advice it gives. Like, is it all about creating like a flashy website and handing out business cards?
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that. The course really dives into topics like branding, building an online presence, and even networking within the entertainment industry.
I bet social media plays a big role in that, right? I mean, platforms like YouTube and TikTok. are perfect for showcasing those like mind-blowing moments.
You're absolutely right. The course encourages mentalists to embrace social media, create engaging content, and use those platforms to connect with potential audiences and build a following.
It's fascinating to see how an art form as old as mentalism is adapting to like the digital age. It's like these ancient techniques of illusion are finding new life online.
Exactly. And the course highlights how those online platforms can be used not just for marketing, but also for building community, connecting with other mentalists, and sharing knowledge and inspiration.
So it's not just about self-promotion. It's about being part of like a larger movement, keeping the art form alive and evolving.
Precisely. And that brings us back to something we've touched on throughout this deep dive, the importance of ethics.
Right.
As mentalism gains new platforms and a wider reach, it's more crucial than ever to use this power responsibly.
It's like Spider-Man's Uncle Ben always said, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. And the course emphasizes that ethical considerations should be woven into every aspect of a mentalist's career, from the techniques they use to the way they market themselves.
Because ultimately, it's about building trust with the audience.
Absolutely.
If people feel manipulated or deceived, the magic is lost.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance. Mentalists are entertainers, storytellers, masters of suggestion.
Right.
But they also have a responsibility to use their skills ethically.
It's like they're walking a tightrope between reality and illusion, captivating the audience while maintaining that element of respect and transparency.
Well said. And as our deep dive into this mentalism course outline comes to an end, I'm left with a sense of awe at the depth and complexity of this art form. It's so much more than meets the eye.
Me too. It's been a mind-blowing journey.
Good.
Exploring the psychology, the techniques, the showmanship, and the ethical considerations that go into creating these incredible illusions.
And as we conclude, I'd like to leave you with a final thought. Now that you've glimpsed behind the curtain, do you see the world differently? Are you more aware of the subtle ways in which perception and suggestion shape our reality?
That's a great question to ponder. And maybe, just maybe, this deep dive has sparked a little curiosity in each of us, a desire to explore, like, the hidden potential of our own minds.
Perhaps. After all, as we've learned from mentalism, the line between illusion and reality is often thinner than we think.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of the Deep Dive. Until next time, keep those minds sharp, stay curious, and remember, reality is often just an illusion waiting to be unveiled.